right, man. They say that he is an Arizona legend. In fact, JLX actually said that. I'm just taking her words. But Arizona legend Kenny Dobbs is in the building.
Yes, sir. Appreciate
J
you guys
in the morning. Listen, man, I'm not from Arizona, but I've heard plenty about you and your slam dunk skills. So can you at least first talk about how you got into that? Because you're a champion at that slam dunk. How did that whole thing start?
Yeah. Man, I mean, just growing up out here, West Side, Maryville, just coming out of the city. I mean, playing out there at the street ball courts, really.
Yeah.
I was a talented athlete growing up, mixed martial arts. My mom was a black belt, and my grandfather was a kung fu instructor. So, kind of growing up with that as a young kid, really, I know now is what kind of like prepped that muscle, fascia, and tissue to be explosive at all times. And so, kind of like Bruce Lee, how he's talked about moving like water and harnessing that energy. But I applied that into football and then eventually basketball, and I really credit, a lot of the success that I was able to accomplish to God, because without him, I mean, none of that would have been possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was facing 6 to 9 years in prison for robbery. I was selling drugs. I was dropped out of school at 15 years old. So I never got to play basketball in high school, but the streets is really where I honed my game, my craft, my talent. When you're a young dude coming up, playing in the street ball courts out there at the parks or whatever, the OGs out there roughing you up. I mean, you really got to go above and beyond to be able to earn your place there. So, playing out there is what kind of honed me in. But when I got my first dunk, that was like the passion for me from that point on. Because once I dunked it was like immediate respect and honor from everybody out there.
How old were you when you had your first dunk?
I was 14. It was the summer of 8th grade going into my freshman year.
Okay.
And I threw a little rim rattler down. But, also it's kind of like coming into that time frame with like Vince Carter in 2000 winning the dunk competition.
Right.
And the way that he did it was just like, it just blew me away to where immediately right after that, I was like right out to the basketball court, trying those dunks and just continue to have a passion to push myself to go above and beyond what was like the normal standard. Because everybody could dunk at that time, in high school. Yeah. But who's windmilling, who's throwing off the glass, so it kind of came a competition within itself in the street.
When did you start actually entering professional competitions to be like, all right, I got it now. Now I want to show it off and compete against others?
Yeah, it's kind of like a full circle, you know what I mean? Coming back for the Hoop It Up, 3v3 that's coming out, you know? I actually won the Hoop It Up dunk competition 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And then from there, the next year, Shaquille O'Neal's cousin was actually at the event. Oh, wow. And after I won the competition for that time, he was like, man, I ain't never seen, nobody, Hispanic, Native, whatever, looking like you, jumping out there and beating all these dudes. And he was like, Shaq is hosting a national slam dunk competition in L.A., and I want to bring you out. And
I was actually going to ask about that because, we're talking about your upbringing and whatnot and your background. For those that don't know, you say you're Hispanic and Native.
Correct.
How was that playing on the, the basketball courts and you being probably one of the only Hispanic or Native kids there and everybody else is not?
Well, I feel like I said, like, it's all kind of like part of the success in itself, just like in music, you guys do a lot of stuff. I mean, there's probably a lot of great talented people, but the look is what sets people apart at times, So just me with, the culture of the Native, having the hair and then the braids. And, I grew up obviously in Maryville. So, I mean, you're surrounded by the, the Black, Hispanic, culture.
Yeah.
And that's, that was my whole vibe and everything. So, obviously, having a different look than everybody else, but you got this crazy bounce, and game to you and everything. So, so it was, it's kind of like what set me apart. So when you're out there, and then also I'm only like 6'3", which is like Steph Curry's height.
Only.
So when
I
you're
only.
well, when it comes to basketball, like you got 6'5", 6'8", 7 foot,
like 6'5".
and that goes
into
into
taller than that. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, when you think of like Steve Nash or Steph Curry, those are 6'3" athletes, and they look like little boys out there on the basketball court.
100%.
Next to the giants. So with me having a 48-inch vertical at my size, it just looked amazing, And obviously the braids flying through the air and the dunks happening, they just don't expect it.
I remember that guy with the long braids. He jumps really high.
Right.
Yeah, and that's how it was for many years. Like, oh, you're that dude with the braids and the bounce. Yeah.
And is that how you built your following here in Arizona? Is doing the slam dunking, or like, because I definitely peeped your page. I'm like, oh, he has quite the following here locally.
Yeah.
Is it what you believe you did on the court that got you that following, or is there other things in the community?
Well, I mean, like I said, but going back to my story before that, I mean, I was kicked out of schools growing up from elementary through high school, went through like 12, 15 different schools. So, I mean, I made a lot of friends no matter where I went, you know, but at the same time, like I mentioned, my dad sold drugs. I grew up in Maryville. The household was like the party house every Friday, Saturday night. So later on, that's what I was doing. I was throwing big parties. I was selling drugs. I was involved in that negative lifestyle. But when I got out of that, I actually went into a program, was court appointed by the judge to go into substance abuse and gang prevention. And while I was doing that, everybody else is smoking, whatnot, before going into the class. And I'm just like, I was ready for a change, man. Like I said, I asked God for a miracle to get me out of that situation. I was facing 6 to 9 years in prison. I knew if I went into prison, I was probably never going to get out, because if somebody disrespect me, how I look or whatever, or think that you're weak, you gotta you know, earn your respect out there. And if you're fighting and whatever, you're gonna get more time and more time. I felt like, man, if I go in, I'm never coming out. So I asked God for a miracle. And long story short, man, sitting in that courtroom, the arresting officers didn't file paperwork correctly. The witness of the crime didn't show up to court. So, you know, with all that falling in my favor,
wow, that's God for sure.
I ended up getting hit with all of the fines, the helicopter chase, damaged property, all of that. But the judge was like, "You're responsible. You were the leader. You know, I could tell you're the leader of the group. You're responsible for all these fines, blah, blah, blah." I didn't care about none of that. I just waited to find out how much time. And when it was all said and done, I didn't have to go serve no prison time. My attorney was like, "Man, it's a miracle that you're not going to prison."
That's awesome.
And he said, "Miracle." It was like I got sucked back into time when I was on my knees in a jail cell asking God for a miracle. So from that point on, that's when I changed my life. So when I went to those court-appointed drug and prevention courses, I was in there ready to make a change. And seeing my peers smoking, drinking, whatever, before going into class, it was like it pulled at my heart.
For sure.
And that's where, like, for the first time I started speaking up in that class, like, y'all coming in here, you know, smoking, drink. You don't want to listen to the white dude with the tie and the degrees on his wall talking about how you need to change. That's fine. I understand that. But I've been here and I've walked in these shoes. And if you keep on this path, you're going to end up dead or in prison.
Because now there's a sense of urgency.
It was for me, yeah. And so, I had just lost my cousin, you know, at 19. He had just passed away. And, you know, that lifestyle was something that we wanted to get out of. And before he passed away, he gave his life to Christ and was like, "Man, you got to change or you're going to lose it." You know what I'm saying? So it was a situation where my house just got shot up. All these things were falling into my lap, like it's time to change. And not only for myself, I started feeling that same passion for everybody else. So anyways, when you ask me how I built that following, during that time, I started speaking up in those classes. And then the teacher dude was, like I said, white dude, suit and tie, degrees on his wall, trying to tell us how to change, but he never been there. He never walked in our shoes. He heard me speak up in class and how much attention I demanded when I started to speak, and he was like, "You know what? I need to introduce you to the mayor's office. They need to hear your story and all of that." So long story short, after doing that for 3 months, meeting with them, they would ask me, "How would you change things? How would you do this? How would you do that?" You know, as far as dealing with behavioral health issues and substance abuse in the city. So they took all of this information. They would take me to lunch every week, and they would ask me all those questions. I would give them my honest feedback. Well, they wrote a grant, and based off of my findings, they ended up getting awarded $3 million. So they named me the chairman of the Youth Advisory Council over all of Arizona for substance abuse and gang prevention. And I set up over 35 different subcommittees over 3 years across Arizona. So I was going into schools, community centers, inner city events. I ended up creating the largest youth leadership conference in Arizona. And then I got awarded by our governor, Napolitano, back at that time. And went to Washington, D.C. to speak to legislators. So when I started building all of that, it was like a huge community movement based off of my you know, who I was and what I was becoming. But then also the basketball side of things, I was like, man, I'm reaching thousands of people on a weekly basis with my testimony and my message.
Right, a fun way to get
what could I be doing if I
aware.
went back to my basketball talents, you know? And I really just, you know, asked God to bless that ability. And in a sense, it's like I had the talent, but I didn't have the vision. And that's where God, bam, you know, put that vision in my heart to combine these things together. And I began going to schools, Boys and Girls Club, dunking and speaking. I would use the dunking ability to wow everybody.
Exactly.
And then
To
I
really
would
bring
be able
them
to
into the
deliver that
message.
message from there.
Smart.
So
awesome.
that was the birth of everything. But then YouTube, man. YouTube, I just started posting my videos of me dunking.
Yeah, that was
Getting
like the
ready for the
prime
competitions.
of YouTube when it first started like taking
Exactly.
off and posting.
So
I
I
mean,
was-
I remember being a kid and seeing your videos, and
Yeah.
that's how I first knew of you. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
So just by doing the YouTube and putting yourself out there, those videos started going viral,
Right.
like overnight, millions of views, you know.
Yeah.
And then when I went to the slam dunk competition with Shaq,
Yeah. Oh, that
going
that
out
took
there
off.
to Venice Beach, that video went crazy, and mainly because, like we talked about, there was dudes 6'5", 6'8". You know, one dude's his nickname was 7 and some change because that's how tall that fool was, 7
Wow.
foot tall and some change. So with me going out there, really no warm up. Just coming straight off the plane, grabbing my stuff. I was intimidated because everybody was bigger than me, you know, stronger than me. It was intimidating.
Yeah.
So I really kind of just put that faith in action at that point and went out there and just delivered. And the way that I delivered in that competition, it was also a mix of my creativity. Like I said, I had planned on somebody throwing the ball over the hoop from the crowd. So my final dunk, I walked out there with no ball. So the dude was like, what's he about to do? And I just walked to the hoop, and then all of a sudden the ball just comes over. And they see the ball, and then I jump up, I spin 360 in the air, catch it. My braids are flying. I throw it down, and just
Oh, I
everybody
gotta
just
see
went
this video
crazy.
now.
Yeah, I want to see that.
So, yeah, at that point, that video went viral. And then Sprite, a week later, gave me a call and said, hey, we want to invite you out to our national slam dunk tour.
Wow. That's
And
dope.
That's so
that's where
cool.
everything really went crazy from there, because I was supposed to just go to one city, you win it, and then you go to the next city, and they expect you to lose because, you know,
Right, of course.
you're going on to battle
The
the,
big
best
league.
of all of these
Yeah.
other
Sure,
people.
Yeah.
They didn't expect me to go on all 10 cities and win all of the, you know, we're talking about like Atlanta, Chicago, New York.
Yeah, that's
Philly-
incredible.
All the
Yeah.
meccas of these places, and I'm coming out there as a champion. So after doing that, they signed me to a full endorsement deal.
Wow.
And that was the first time I had, you know, in my entire life, like realized that, hey, this is what I'm going to do, you know, from that point on. So,
Man, what a great story, man.
yeah, it was
know,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And it's nice that, you know, for people that are hearing that you're from right here in Arizona, and you were able to impact people all over the country with
Right.
your talent and your message. Obviously, like you mentioned, you obviously won the Hoop It Up. You know, we have a Hoop It Up coming up Saturday, April 12th at Rawhide Event Center.
Yes.
You're going to be hosting the Slam Dunk contest.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
What do you look for in others that, you know, are now trying to, you know, be like you? I mean,
Yeah.
like, do you have certain skill set? Is it the attitude? Is it the way they handle the ball? Like, you know, when you're out there and you're looking at others, what are you looking at?
Well, the beauty of the situation now is it's come full circle.
Right.
So not only did I go out there and become like a national champion, I set a goal to become a world champion. And
Wow.
becoming a world champion means you got to go compete in other countries.
Yes.
So from Asia, Africa, Europe, everywhere in between, I went out there and won those dunk competitions.
Wow.
And I earned my endorsements with Sprite, Nike, and Red Bull. The first athlete outside the NBA to do that.
That's
So
awesome.
after trailblazing all
That's
of that,
amazing.
when you ask me what am I looking for, I'm looking for the next Kenny Dobbs.
Okay,
Because
yes,
I
sir.
have opportunities
Right.
for these
Yeah.
guys where
Yeah.
for me there was no lane.
Yeah.
Right back then, I had
Yeah.
to make that lane.
Yeah, yeah.
But now you have guys that are making more than NBA players that are sitting on the bench that are out there pursuing their goals and dreams, dunking a basketball or playing street ball right now.
Right.
So we just finished our TV show, man. This was a childhood dream of mine. I competed and, you know, did a TV show with TNT called The Dunk King. Did a movie. They made a movie based off my life story. So learning
wow.
all of that, now it's like me, I want to be the producer. I want to be the director.
Yeah.
And so
Sure.
I set
Yeah.
that goal, and we just accomplished it. It was a 4-year journey for me from 2020 till now to go out and accomplish that. But now that that's done and sold, I'm looking for the next wave of athletes. And so
right.
when I go out there and I host competitions or host dunk competitions, it's not just about their opportunity to win that prize money, because we're putting $1,000 on the line at the Hoop It Up for this
Yeah,
dunk
I was gonna
competition. You
mention
know what I'm
that.
saying? So, I mean, that's a nice little chunk of change for
Yeah.
20 minutes worth of work.
That's
Right.
right.
Right? But at the same time, there's the opportunities that go on beyond that.
Yes.
And that's what I'm looking for. So when you talk about talent, all of those things, man. You can never judge a book by its cover. So there might be a 5'6" dude that don't look like he can dunk the ball, but he's out there and he's got it, you know?
There you
and
go.
for me, I try to tell everybody, just like you guys with radio hosts and whatnot, some people may have a voice that sounds like a radio, but they don't know how to carry a conversation.
For right.
Somebody may have a beautiful look, but they don't know how to actually interview and draw somebody's story out of them where they might be nervous. So there's certain skill sets that you guys possess and have harnessed over the years. Well, in the same sense, I want to be able to do that for other athletes. Like, I can give them the bag. I have 15 years of 10,000 hours that I've put into the dunking side of things that if you have a little bit of that talent that I could see, I can harness that and give you what took me 10 years to learn.
The tools.
Within, yeah, exactly. So,
Speaking of, my bad. Go ahead.
yeah, so I mean, when I'm looking for stuff like that, I'm looking for that unique look, but at the end of the day, I'm looking for that bounce, man. If they have the basic foundation, which is the jumping ability, then I can give them the bag
give
work,
everything
you know
else.
what I'm saying, the technique and things from there. But in a dunk competition, you want that style and flair.
For sure.
You know, I came out with a different look, a different vibe. So, I mean, that has a little bit to do with it. The way that they interact with the crowd, you know, can you be an entertainer? You know what I'm saying?
True.
You like,
I mean, that's
you
what
know,
people want to see.
Right.
Yeah.
And even for you guys with the music industry, like there might be some rappers that got bars, but they're just sitting on the mic spitting on, you know what I mean?
That's right.
They ain't got no
No
performance.
stage presence,
exactly. So all of those pieces come into play. You know, the style, the flair that they do things, can they just not just only dunk it, but can they bring power and finesse to it? So, yeah, there's a lot of different things, you know, that come into a dunk competition of what you're looking for. But at the end of the day, do you got that bounce and do you have the stage presence to go out there and deliver? Because everybody can have a whole bag of dunks, but if they get in front of the crowd and they choke up, at the end of the day, a dunk competition, the winner is going to be the guy that makes his dunks.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You can have the best tricks, but if you're missing
you
them,
missing it,
you ain't gonna get a guy that comes up after you with a basic dunk. You miss yours and he made his. He's
got
gonna
it.
go on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I know when you were talking about skill set, I was going to ask you, like, what kind of training goes into being, like, an elite dunker
oh my
like yourself?
goodness. I'm talking about it's a lifestyle.
You talking
know what I'm saying?
practice?
Like, yeah.
Practice?
He just said 10,000 hours. I mean,
Oh,
he
yeah,
down
for
the
sure.
walk so everyone else can run.
Right. Well, I try to tell people, like, you know, when it comes to it, if you look at some of my old videos before a competition, I mean, I'm even looking at the ground. Is it level here? You know, when I throw the ball, is it going to bounce off this way, that way? Like, you know,
So
I'm talking
much
about
technique that goes in all
yeah,
that,
I'm talking
man.
about
Yeah.
like I put in those hours on how I throw the ball, because if the ball bounces forward, I might have to go with a windmill dunk at that point. If it bounces behind me, I might turn and do a reverse dunk. You know what I'm saying? So even the way that the ball bounces may determine the way that I'm going to do a different dunk. But you would have had to have practiced all of that to be ready for the instinct of it happening in a competition, you know? So there's a lot that goes into it. But when I tell people how to train for it, it's like a lifestyle.
For sure.
You know, with a professional basketball player, like a lot of these kids out there think they're going to the NBA. And they go to school, they come home, they're on video games, they're on FaceTime with their girls, you know, then they go to practice and they might have a shoot around. Well, 2 a day ain't gonna work, bro.
Exactly,
You know,
yeah.
if you're not getting up at 5 a.m. before school, getting a session in, then during school, making sure you're eating right, handling all your schoolwork, so when you come home, you ain't got that extra time where you can now invest into your craft. Like, it's a lifestyle of training, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
To be able
really
to
put in
take it
your
to that
all.
level. If you're
Yeah.
trying to be a world champion, you know, it has to be a lifestyle of training. So, and even the way that I eat and drink, like, had to change. You know, I'm a ghetto kid. So, I mean, when I was growing up, I mean, if we had McDonald's, that was like, you know,
That was
oh
a
man, that was
treat.
a treat. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You getting to go out to eat or whatever. So if you if you have that type of habit going into your body, as far as, like, you know, I learned from Ratatouille, like the saying, it says your food is your fuel, you know? So it's like, oh yeah, that is true. So if I'm trying to be a Lamborghini as far as an extreme athlete, I can't be just putting in no regular gas into the tank, you know what I'm saying? So the way that you eat, drink, I see you guys got the essential water, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just about regular
9.5
bottled water.
pH.
You got to have that, yeah.
Hydro Flask.
You got to have that, you know, good alkaline water.
Yeah.
So
Right.
the way that I drank, you know, no sodas, no sugars, you know, all of that stuff, because I wanted my body to perform at its highest level. So, yeah, the whole training became a whole lifestyle for me. And when I adapted to that, that's when I seen the most progression from there.
That makes sense. Well, you mentioned $1,000 grand prize
Yeah.
presented by Maverick Sports Housing for the Slam Dunk winner at Hoop It Up, April 12th. Rawhide Event Center. Kenny Dobbs will be hosting.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
He will be there. So we're looking for you. Also, you can register your team still too at power983.com. That's also where you want to go to submit your slam dunk video so you can get entered into the slam dunk contest.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see. I'm going to be out there. I guess
sir.
they got me judging.
All right, let's go.
I might talk to you beforehand, like,
Yeah.
what do I do? Do I pick?
Nah, trust me. When I'm hosting, I'm gonna let you know whether it's nice or not.
That's
you
it.
know what I'm saying? I'm gonna tell you the level of difficulty. I'll be naming the dunks because a lot of people don't know. Like, what did he do? He just put his arm in the rim. No, that's a honey dip. You know what I'm saying? This is, there's like certain names for different dunks, and there's level of difficulty and everything. So. I'll definitely be helping out on that level. But I might have to send you some videos to let you know what the standard is.
Where
You know what I'm
can they
saying?
find you? For the audience that's like, okay, I want to see what he's talking about. He did all of this. Where can I watch the videos? Where can
I would
they find
say,
you?
the best place to find me and to stay up to date is on IG, man. At the Kenny Dobbs.
There we go.
Yep, at the Kenny Dobbs. That's where you can find me. And even for competitions and things like this, I'm always posting on my IG, on my story, or on my page about what's happening, especially in the city, man. I'm always trying to give people opportunities to get on, no matter what it is. And I'm hosting events on a weekly, monthly basis out here. If I'm in town, I'm doing something for the city to give back.
That is what's up, man. At the Kenny Dobbs. We'll see you there. April 12th, Rawhide Event Center, Hoop It Up, Slam Dunk Contest. Again, go to power983.com. Get all the info. Kenny,
Yes,
thanks
sir.
so much.
Sir, thank you guys.
J&J in
Appreciate
the
you.
morning.